So, tonight, in this rendition, we are going to go over the 4 different Halloween timelines there are currently.
It's ultimately like a giant choose your own adventure. You know, those old books you used to read. Turn to page 20 if you want to go up the stairs. If you want to go down the basement, turn to page 50.
Okay, I am old school, and there's only
the Goosebumps.
There's only 2 Michael Myers movies, and then it goes to Halloween 3, and it's an anthology, and John Carpenter's allowed to do what the fuck he wants to, and nobody tells him otherwise.
Fair. Lots of people agree with that sentiment, and that is one of the 4 timelines.
But we'll let you all talk about the rest of them.
We'll be talking tonight. Before we jump into all of that, this is the week before Halloween, and we will be featuring, since we are talking about the Halloween franchise, we are going to be featuring 2 recipes from our pals at Geek Sweets. The first one, good job on that, was their Haddonfield horseshoes, and it's a kind of like an open face hamburger.
Say that 4 times fast.
Yeah, right. Gosh. It's basically it's a recreation on a Midwest favorite. You'll see the pictures on screen now and the recipes. It's a pound of ground beef, 3 cups of frozen seasoned crinkle cut fries, cheese whiz, Texas toast,
cheese whiz,
hot sauce, and now you basically just grill the patty. You toast the bun, you microwave the cheese whiz until it's runny, and then you top it. You top the burger or the Texas toast rather with the burger, the fries, the cheese whiz, and then hot sauce if you want some blood splatter effect to it, and there you have it. Yeah.
Do you want to add real blood?
You could if it's you could.
But would it be better with your blood or someone else's blood?
If you boil blood, does it then become sanitary? If it's boiled?
I think you just leave it out.
If it's boiled for safety?
I don't think you can boil like STDs out of it, but
well, I mean,
otherwise I think it's fine.
Those are probably flavor enhancers. That probably works the same as like salt. So
a little oomph
like that all flavor seasoning that you put in on stuff.
A little bit of that pizzazz for your piss ass.
Like the what seasoning? What did you say?
The all flavor seasoning.
Oh yeah.
It's called Mrs. Dash.
Whatever.
I don't know who she's married to, but I think it's.
Maybe that's her first name. Maybe she decided to legally change her first name to Mrs.
Maybe it is just Miss, but I feel like I've seen it as Mrs. I'm sure we'll get a lot of comments about that. I'm sure I've probably just stepped on so many toes right now.
Probably.
I'm like 90% sure it's married title.
I want to say it is, and I'm like, who the fuck is there? A Mr. Dash? I don't know.
Was there
Mr. Dash? Is he related to Salt and Pepper on Blue's Clues? Who knows?
Didn't they have a little kid named Dash?
No, their kid is
Paprika.
It was
Come
Paprika.
on, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
You're the one with the kid.
Come on, man.
You're the one with the kid.
Blue's Clues.
Well, I didn't say she had culture. I said you had a kid.
How are you not introducing her to like the perfection that was Blue's Clues in the 90s?
She's 9. She doesn't watch it.
Your excuse for not showing her before she turned 9?
She watched it when she was little, but she never really got into it.
Well,
anyways,
that was get her into it.
That was time out.
That's the hot take of the night.
It's never too late for Blue's Clues.
To let her enjoy child things like Blue's
Kids,
Clues.
Tonight's hashtag is cancel Shelby.
And that was the Haddonfield horseshoe that we featured, and then we're actually also going to be featuring one more from Geek Suite, and it is a special trio of shots that they created for the Halloween Hootenanny last year on Shudder, and they did an interview with Darcy, the male girl, and these are silver shamrock shots, and 3 different shots with different colorations based on the pumpkin, witch, and the white, and the skeleton shot, which is the white one, is 3/4 of an ounce of silver rum and pineapple rum cream. 3/4 of that. That makes up the skeleton shot. The pumpkin shot is 3/4 of bourbon. They use Buffalo Trace, and 3/4 of chocolate cream pumpkin spice liqueur. And the witch shot, which is the green one, is 1/2 ounce of vodka, 1/2 ounce of sour apple liqueur, and 1/2 ounce of triple sec. And you can have a nice little trio of Silver Shamrock inspired shots when you watch Halloween 3.
That is a very specialized liqueur. I don't think I've ever seen that. Chocolate caramel.
Yeah, no. Chocolate cream pumpkin spice
Chocolate
liqueur.
cream pumpkin spice.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't have it in your liquor cabinet, you should go hunt Sarah and Matt down. They've got it.
Yeah.
Just knock on the door, borrow a dash. I'm sure they probably still have a full bottle in their cabinet. That's probably one that's going to be there for a while. There's not a lot of drinks that call for that mix.
Right, that's true. But yeah, those are some nice Halloween-inspired recipes from them. Always make sure to support them and check them out. Check out Sarah's new podcast that she just started doing called Final Girls Feast. It's a podcast about food in horror film inspired food, films that are inspired by food inspired by films. Anything that has to do with horror and food, they talk about it.
If there's not an entire episode of Chocolate Chip Charlie, then
hey, I'm sure it's going to
come.
I'm sure it's going to come.
That's the one I'm waiting for.
Right, yeah. Their first episode was on Ice Cream Man, which was a nice end of summer episode. But yeah, and like we mentioned earlier, next week is Halloween. It also means it's our Halloween special, where we'll be.
What's so special about it?
Well,
we'll be debating the hot Halloween topic of, I guess, just the public opinion of candy corn. These two lovely co-hosts of mine are against the candy corn.
Can't wait to destroy you and Heather.
Me and Heather, our in-house artists, will be joining us for that special, and we'll be debating. We'll have some special guests dropping in, giving us their opinions as well. Stay tuned for that.
Well, if they don't agree with me, then they're not welcome to be on the show. So call the producer.
I have a candy corn inspired mixture thing that's supposed to make it taste a little bit better, but
I've got a candy corn inspired mixture. It's called you chew it up and you throw it up. Projectile vomit onto the wall, and there you have some Jackson Pollock shit. So
save your arguments for next week.
Don't worry, I've got posters full of arguments for you.
We have that, and we'll have other awesome stuff. We'll have a special giveaway to announce during our Halloween special and all that. And we'll be actually having that episode will go up live probably Halloween morning, since it is on Saturday. Have all day to check it out when you can. So make sure you check it out. Probably up about 8 or 9 Halloween morning. So.
And don't worry, you won't be allowed to do anything because y'all couldn't act right for Rona, so Halloween got canceled. So your asses can sit here and watch us on the internet.
Yeah.
Yep.
No
it's not
excuses.
like you guys can have anything better to do.
It's not like we're allowed to do anything now. Could have stayed inside for a damn month in March. We could have Halloween. Bunch of jabronis.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on.
I'm not mad about it.
Discussion for the night. We're talking about, again, all things Halloween series. The Choose Your Own Adventure. This is the first one that always comes to mind of me, of like how the continuity in that film franchise is totally jacked for various reasons. Starting out though, obviously the original Halloween was released in 1978 by John Carpenter, produced by Deborah Hill. Mustafa Akkad was a producer as well. Obviously went on to independent film. I think the budget was $375,000 and it grossed millions and millions. Yeah, instant classic, instant obsession with this, and it like through the fuel on the slasher craze of the 80s and just helped ignite that entire trend for the next decade. And yeah, so from this point, from the original film, there's literally 4 different paths you can take. So we're going to start with the one Shelby talked about earlier, which was Halloween, Halloween 2, and then obviously Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Now, Halloween 2 was made in 81, I believe, and Carpenter wrote the sequel to it. He did not direct it, but, and yeah. Shelby, do you want to talk more about Halloween 2 and what all happens in that film?
Yes. So, Halloween 2 is supposed to be, this is going to be a spoiler if you haven't watched it, but I think you've had plenty of time to catch up.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be the second half. Halloween was supposed to be a 2-part. The first one ends on the cliffhanger. But the second one is really the death of Michael Myers at the hands of Laurie Strode and Dr. Loomis. So he finally takes care of business. But people didn't really like the fact that he died, and the production company didn't like the fact that they lost their slasher. And this was in the height of everybody's starting, they get more than one, you got your Freddy Krueger, you got Jason Voorhees, and then you had Michael Myers, but he's only in 2 movies, and they're going to kill him off, and that was deemed to be unacceptable. And so you have the whole retconning of the John Carpenter anthology plan for Halloween being an anthology series. So it makes me mad. Because, Michael Myers is great, it's cool, and a lot of these movies that come after this, that it's just, the story becomes a mess because it becomes a choose-your-own-adventure
Yeah,
deal.
and
Not that the other ones have good stories either. There's plenty of problems with the Friday the 13th timeline and the Nightmare on Elm Street timeline. Like, they're all screwed up because they made too many movies and they don't connect well together.
And,
in some places.
Like, the really cool thing about the second Halloween film is, it picks up literally transitions into the second one seamlessly.
It's almost like a TV movie, like truly it does.
Yeah,
which is really impressive.
There's lots of good scenes in H2. There's the long scene where Michael is walking down an alley. He goes into the person's house, takes their knife, walks out. It's just one long shot, really nice. There's the Ben Tramer scene, which is an infamous scene where there's a kid, basically, which in the original Halloween film, Laurie Strode is being teased about liking Ben Tramer, so that character is actually in Halloween 2, has a Michael mask on, the hair's different, lighter, and Loomis obviously is at this point kind of crazed and delirious, and it's
reasonably.
And
he warned them.
He did warn them, yeah. And then he ends up getting hit by an ambulance, which is basically exploding. And they find out through dental records later on that it wasn't Myers, it was Ben Tramer. That's how they identified who it was. The majority of Halloween 2 takes place in a hospital. Laurie is taken to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, and where she kind of gets flirty with I think it's a classmate's older brother who's an ambulance driver or something. And he was Lance Guest, I believe, who was in The Last Starfighter. And basically becomes a cat and mouse game of Myers in the hospital, stalking Laurie. We find out in this film that Laurie and Michael are actually brother and sister.
Yeah, it does add more backstory to Michael Myers. I think it does add some important things to the mythology of Michael Myers.
Well,
it gives him a reason. Mm-hmm. Before he was just this crazy person that you're like, why is he attacking people? And now you're like, oh, okay, that's why. He has a connection to her.
Yeah. Right. And so this film, it's very interesting because Carpenter, he wrote Halloween 2, and he had Michael be killed off thanks to what was it? I think Loomis released some gas and shot Myers in the eyes, and that exploded. Laurie got out. Loomis and Michael were in the building or in the room or something. And that was Finn Fade to Black on the Myers story. And then when was it? This one came out in '82. We have Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. He also directed Friday Night 2 and various other films. This was produced by Carpenter and Deborah Hill as well, written by Tommy Lee Wallace. And this is what Shelby was talking about earlier, how, and I don't know if it was featured in interviews before or after its release, but basically the whole premise was supposed to be, and we talked about this on the show previously too, but each year he wanted to do a new horror film based around the holiday of Halloween. Don't know if we would have gotten 2 parts for Halloween 3 or not.
Probably not.
Maybe not. But basically kind of what like Saw did in the 2000s, they had a new sequel every October for at least, 6 or 7 of their films. They do that every year. That was kind of what he was wanting to do with his Halloween series. And obviously, as everyone knows, it's gone on to, it tanked at the box office, and then that made them bring Myers back. But that kind of wraps it up for one particular story, one of the paths we can take tonight, where it was the original vision kind of ended with 3, and the Myers story ended in Halloween 2.
And it kind of leaves Michael Myers as a bit of a mystery too, because you don't really know a ton about him other than he is driven for some reason to kill his family and whoever gets in his way. But I liked it because it does kind of keep it simple too. He's just a monster. He's the shape.
Yeah.
So it's a little weird. There's not a lot of exposition. I like how it drops you right into it. I mean, the first movie, he breaks out of the... Loomis is trying to petition for him to never be released, and then he escapes from the minimum security, and he goes right back to trying to finish the business that he started when he was a kid. He's just drawn to kill. So I think I've always enjoyed just how it's hard to mess something up when you don't give it a lot of things to be questioned.
Yeah.
In a way, especially if you're not going to do the story right. Sometimes it's better just to not tell those parts of the story and let people fill in the blanks.
And it's sad because a lot, I feel like, especially in today's films and stuff that are released, people want every little bit answered, and that's what made a lot of these horror films great, and films in general. Like, you don't have everything that's answered. You have certain aspects that are left to the imagination. Like, for instance, Halloween 3 is a perfect example.
Yep.
We're left at a crucial moment. Does he live? Do they shut the channel off? Do the kids die? What's the status on all the other time zones and stuff? Like
I think Carpenter, I think he was going for just an extended format, like Outer Limits feel on these. They were going to be like a horror anthology, and they were not going to be feel good stories. I think they really hit the nail on the head with these first 3, even though he didn't direct the second one. You did write it.
Yeah.
And just the whole direction of the series changes after this, and there's some good things, but to me it is disappointing because I would have liked it to be in the other. I'm not mad about there being more Michael Myers, but you could have done it differently. They could have both existed, honestly.
Yeah. So Brandy, what's your opinion on this particular structure and these first 3 films in the franchise?
Well, I think compared to the other storylines, this one kind of makes him seem more human. Because he doesn't have this mysterious death and come back constantly, and he kind of serves his purpose. It wraps it all up, and then I think it would have been interesting to see an anthology. I wish they had done it a different way if they had to stop doing the Halloween movies. Like, maybe if they'd released something under a different title, they could have done that, and that would have been cool to see.
Yeah, and that's been the biggest argument. Like, lots of people are like, well, Halloween 3 would have been way more successful if it was released under a second title, but that, again, it wasn't the point of the franchise. But yeah, no, I agree with what you mean. That I think these first 2 films made him human and still had some mystery to it as well. Definitely agree with you on that. And yeah,
so that's the timeline everybody apparently hated. So then we get the new timeline, which is out of all of them, I think I do like. If Michael Myers lives, I like the second timeline the most, I think, of the remaining three.
Yeah. Right, and
personally,
just to clarify, we're not counting Rob Zombie's films because they're not coming from the original film. They're kind of like an alternate version and stuff. But yeah, so then we have obviously 6 years passed with no Halloween films, where Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th kind of flourished. Then in '88, we have Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, which takes place a decade after Halloween 2 in the story. And Michaels and Loomis survived the fire. Michael's in a coma. He's been in a prison, and Loomis is all burnt up, and Donald Pleasence reprises Loomis.
Yes, I mean, I like it because Donald Pleasence is still in it. If you're going to have Halloween, you have to have Donald Pleasence. It has to have Dr. Loomis.
And in this particular, jump, we go from Halloween 2 to Halloween 4, 5, and 6. And this particular trilogy of 4 through 6, it focuses on and features Jamie Lloyd, which is Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode's daughter, and played by Danielle Harris. And really, I agree with you, Shelby. If I had to pick another one, this is probably my favorite one, just because they're really good stories. I love Halloween 5. Lots of people don't. I love it.
Introduces the Man in Black, like the whole mythology behind him.
And we have Myers come back after a decade, and we discover in this trilogy of films that it takes on more of a supernatural feel, because we have the introduction of Man in Black, which I loved in 5, how you don't know who this person is, but you realize he has the same tattoo on his wrist as Michael does, which introduces the Thorn curse, which was further delved on in part 6. But yeah, these films, the opening sequence in H4 is like perfect. It's like a great montage of these awesome autumn fall shots, and you can watch that film and be in the fall mood, immediately. The music was great in these films as well. But yeah, we have Jamie Lloyd with a family who adopted her when she was a baby and stuff, and she has a sister, Rachel, who is kind of the teenager, and then we have her antics with her teenage friends and all that. But yeah, then we have Loomis basically hitchhiking from Smith Grove back to Haddonfield, trying to warn the new Sheriff Meeker, that Michael's coming back. Everyone is kind of thinks he's crazy, thinks they don't like the fact that he is trying to open up old wounds, so to speak. And yeah, it's I think H4 was a good solid continuation of the story. And then 5, and then basically it's like this film ended. H4 ended with Michael hunting down Jamie and Rachel and killing some of her friends, and yada yada yada, and they end up at a school, and then this kind of lynch mob that assembled to kind of track down Michael once the town confirmed that he was back. They're leaving and stuff, and Michael basically gets shot with an automatic shotgun, almost, I think, from Meeker into like a coal mine.
It's like something. A mine shaft.
Yeah, it's a mine shaft.
It's like a really deep pit.
Yeah.
Conveniently.
Right, and they throw a dynamite in, explodes, yada 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 yada, and then the end of H4. This is where I feel like was a super missed opportunity. They have Jamie Lloyd because it mirrors the very first film where we had the POV shot at the beginning, and it's Jamie Lloyd. She's in the bathroom. The mom is taking a bath. Jamie's goes up there and stabs the mom with a pair of scissors. Loomis here screaming. He is kind of in hysteria after he sees basically like this is kind of starting all over again. He gets his gun out, trying to shoot her. Meeker disarms him and stuff, and we're just kind of left with that last shot of Jamie holding the scissors with her clown costume on and stuff. And I feel like that opportunity to have.
Oh, I agree. Like that, and what ends up being exposed later in this second trilogy is that it's like you have to kill a family to stay alive. And I loved how it was almost like if Michael's dead in this one finally, that his blood is going to pick up the mantle and somebody else is going to start killing again. And they totally just don't take that.
Yeah.
It's like a total red herring in this.
Mm-hmm. And then, it was then we have, it again, kind of like how it was with the first two films. It goes from Halloween 4 to Halloween 5, picks up immediately after. We see that Michael survived the dynamite explosion, just barely, and he's just basically drifting down a river. Comes up to shore. He finds refuge in a hermit's house on the banks.
Wouldn't they know that there was some weird dude living outside Haddonfield? It's not a very big town, It's like people should know. They should know there's some weird dude down by the river. Maybe they should check and see if Michael Myers' body turned up in the river, right?
And basically for a year, he's I don't know if he falls back into a coma or what, but for a year he's just chilling in this hermit's house. No way of getting sustenance, no way of getting fluids he needs. Just by the magic of film, he survives a year in this hermit's house, and
we don't question it. It just is.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
it happens. That's the story we're given. So. And
in Halloween 5, we discovered that Jamie's gone mute for some reason. She's a mute now.
Trauma.
Doesn't really. Yeah. She's sent into this children's mental hospital. And which I guess it's in Haddonfield, which makes me question why wasn't Michael sent there in the first place when he was a kid. But
medical technology advanced a lot.
Yeah. But basically, we discover that once Michael wakes up, they have him and Jamie have a psychic connection, and she can feel where he's at, and if he's killing someone, she feels it and stuff. I thought that aspect of it was kind of cool.
Yep.
And then we get these different glimpses of this person that comes off a bus outside of Vincent's drugstore, which was in the very first, or no, it was in H4. It's where Michael, it's where Michael gets the mask, and it's this man literally in a black trench coat, black hat, cowboy boots, carrying he's carrying a briefcase.
He's got a Gatling gun or a Tommy gun.
Yeah,
like a machine gun.
You know who he is? We think we get 2 or 3 scenes with him in this film before. But Michael gets his mask and they get back again, and Rachel and her friends. Rachel actually gets killed first quarter of this film, and so her best friend Tina comes kind of the new Rachel in this film, kind of watching over Jamie and stuff. Obviously, they don't realize she's dead until towards the end. But this one has a lot more of a gothic feel based on just especially the Myers house. The Myers house is straight up a gothic house at this point, set design wise and everything. Loomis is I think his character development in this film was kind of, again, Loomis saves these films because he's like, he knows, he can just feel and know that Jamie's hiding something in regards to Michael, and he's trying to push her he wants to basically use her as bait to get Michael to come. And there's an awesome finale where in the Myers house where he lures Michael in via Jamie, and there's a really great scene. I always love this scene was when they're up in the attic and they have dozens of candles lit, and there's a coffin in there and stuff, and she's in there trying to hide, and he comes up and gets her and stuff, and she holds his hand, and like she asks him to take off the mask. He takes it off. You don't really see his face, but you see like through the shadows and through accidental lighting, you see him like shed a tear.
Yeah.
Which I thought was super interesting, super cool that you're showing that human emotion out of him, knowing that he's wanting to kill his niece basically and stuff, and so you're kind of wondering like, well, what is that about and stuff, and but I thought it was cool that actually showed
while he was in, the rehabs or facilities, whatever, he was very stoic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another interesting thing that makes him have this human emotion. He didn't want to talk, didn't have any emotion, and now he's shedding a tear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And so I've always loved that scene. And like whenever she tries to, I think, reach up to maybe wipe it away, that's when he, I guess, snaps back out of it, and he gets pissed and knocks the coffin down and stuff, and throws the mask back on and gets back to work. But I really love that scene. And then we have an awesome Loomis laid some type of a net trap, and it falls down on him and Michael, and Loomis beats Myers down with a 2x4 basically, and he seems to have a heart attack. Like he acts like he's having a heart attack to some capacity, and kind of like he's there. Myers is on the ground. Loomis falls on top of him. They're both kind of like this, face to face, and seems like he's having some health problems, and Myers is just beat to hell.
Yeah.
But then they arrest him. Myers is in the cell at Haddonfield PD. Jamie's in the cop car. They're waiting for I guess I don't know who to come to get him to transfer him back to a maximum security prison, and then you hear all these gunshots going off in the police station, and it's that man in black we've been teased this entire film. He has his little Tommy gun. He's just mowing down cops. We hear an explosion, and then Jamie kind of wanders in, sees all the dead cops, sees Meeker's dead as well, the sheriff, and we see Myers' cell was blown open, and we see kind of, I don't know if it was the back door or maybe it was just that his door we saw that was blown open, and she's there kind of in a panic, and then we're left, it fades to black at that point. So we're kind of left with another cliffhanger with Jamie standing there. And then the last film of this particular timeline wasn't released until 6 years later, The Curse of Michael Myers, which was Paul Rudd's film debut. He played a phenomenal adult version of Tommy Wallace, who was the kid Jamie Lee Curtis babysat in the first film. And he's obsessed, like he's grown up, he's been obsessed with Michael, obsessed with this cult that he feels that Myers is associated with, called the Curse of Thorn, which is like what is it? It was a Druid? Is that a thing?
Yeah. Druids.
It was a cult, and basically, Druid-like cult. Basically, it shows that Jamie was abducted after moments after that scene. 6 years later, we have a weird cult-like scene where Jamie, which was recast, Danielle Harris did not play her in this film, unfortunately, but we have this new actress that's playing Jamie, and basically she's being like impregnated and stuff, and it's like really quick shots of her being impregnated, her, and then having her child be born, and the child is taken away but by the Men in Black, and basically one of the people help Jamie escape, and Myers hunts her down and basically kills her with like I think she gets like she stabs like a farm implement and like he turns it on like yeah. So she's killed. And again, kind of like Rachel in the last one, she's killed in this first quarter of the film. But yeah, so back to Haddonfield. Dr. Loomis is in the house outside of Haddonfield. He has this friend that he used to work with at Smith Grove, Dr. Terrence Wynn, who comes over to talk to him and stuff. And Loomis is retired and this and that. But Jamie actually calls in this radio station, and she says Michael's back, pleads for Dr. Loomis to help her. Loomis just happens to be listening, and so is Tommy Doyle. Not Tommy Wallace, Tommy Doyle, that was his name. And so that kind of perks up Tommy and stuff. And the adoptive family that adopted Laurie Strode, the Strodes, their family, their relatives of, I guess, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, they are living in the Myers house, and they're kind of the main focal point of this one. And yeah, so this one went through a lot of problems. I mean, so we have basically Tommy Doyle teaming up with this Myers family because Michael comes back to Haddonfield again to hunt down the family, or to get the baby rather, because one of the Strodes finds the baby, or is given the baby. I think Tommy Doyle finds the baby, and he gives it to the Strodes, I believe, if that's correct. But yeah, this film was a mess. It was a big mess. They shot it, went through tons of script rewrites. They shot it. Basically, various members of the Strode family get killed. They wind up at Smith Grove Sanatorium. Loomis, Tommy Doyle, and what's her name? Kara Strode, who has Jamie Lee Curtis or Jamie Lloyd's baby, and we find out that the Man in Black was Terrence Wynn, who was Sam Loomis's co-worker from Smith Grove back in the day. Yep. Basically.
It was like they were doing Smith Grove was like the front for that Druid cult, experimenting with that curse. So I really loved how it tied. I mean, they made it. That would explain why Michael Myers didn't get better when he got sent to Smith Grove, right? That was the reason why he was so screwed up.
Yeah, and the staff at Smith Grove have been working with the Thorn cult to study the power of it and everything, and how to control it, how to control Michael. And basically, they were wanting to, and there's lots of speculation that they used Michael to impregnate Jamie so that they could have the baby and control the baby.
Clone or pseudo clone kind of thing.
Yeah, and so basically, and at this point, this is where it switches very vastly. There's two different versions of this film. There's the theatrical version, which has Tommy Doyle getting a syringe, and I must say that Michael in all the films, this is probably the one film he's the most violent in.
Yep.
There's a scene toward the end of Smith Grove where he straight up just like murders an entire doctors, like room full of doctors, and like just goes ham on them.
Goes through them.
Yeah.
This was totally Michael Myers. This was the rebuttal to this is the slasher, the true slasher of all the Halloween movies, up to this point Halloween movies.
Yeah,
he absolutely massacred. The body count in this one's pretty high.
Yeah, but basically we have Tommy Doyle gets a syringe full of green liquid, injects Michael with it, and then this kind of like how Loomis did in 5, Tommy Doyle gets a lead pipe and beats the holy hell out of Michael. and it's a great shot, and like Tommy's going kind of like a little bit crazy, kind of like Corey Feldman in that one Friday the 13th movie where he's hacking away at Jason.
Yeah.
But yeah, he beats him unconscious and stuff. And then after that scene, this in the theatrical version, we have it goes literally from that scene to Paul Rudd, Kara Strode with the baby in their Jeep. They're about to go. They try to plead with Loomis to come with them, and he says, "No, I have some unfinished business to take care of here." They go off. Then it cuts.
Hero.
Then it has a nice little panning shot of him. Then it cuts to a static shot of the Myers mask, the syringe, and you hear Loomis screaming in the background. That's it. Now, there's another version called the producer's cut, which is totally different ending. Totally
like almost
different.
An hour longer too.
I'm not sure how much longer it is. For years and years, there's bootleg copies. I have one of the bootleg copies, but they actually released it publicly in 2013. But yeah, so yeah, and the finale of the producer's cut, it changes a little bit different. Yeah, Stephen is a product of incest between Jamie and Michael, which is the baby. And let's see. Yeah, so there's a part where Wynn is held hostage by Tommy, and there's a locked gate, and then Tommy uses the power of these ancient ruins, these rocks, to stop Michael in his tracks. He's like surrounded by them, and at that point, they escape. So there's no beat down. He uses these rocks to stop Michael, and then it cuts to the scene where they're outside, and Loomis tells them he has some finished business to do. He walks back in to find Michael laying on the floor. He removes the mask, and it's Wynn, not Michael.
Yeah.
And Wynn and Michael switch clothes. Wynn dies, and then Michael escapes. But Wynn passes on. He holds Loomis's wrist or something, and he passes on the Thorn tattoo symbol onto Loomis, and then that's when basically Loomis realizes he goes from he's kind of like the new leader of this cult, and so basically he goes from being Michael's destroyer to now kind of having to protect him, and then he screams in despair and shock and stuff, and that's that scream you hear in the theatrical version. But yeah, I've always kind of leaned towards that producer's cut just because it's so wild. It ends on such a weird note, and like that could have taken the series into some crazy places as well. If Loomis or Don DePleasance, unfortunately, he died before this film was released.
R.I.P. DP
in '96, but yeah, and then this film ends this particular storyline of this trip on the second choose your own adventure path, and it's these four films are wild. Supernatural elements are introduced, and especially in the sixth one. But to me, they work as a nice trio. Definitely work as a nice trio, and yeah, I've always liked them, and I think they have a pretty good following as well. Brady, have you seen these one? Have you seen these 4, 5, and 6 at all that you can think of?
I've seen bits and pieces. I had no idea about the producer's cut, though. I've never seen the ending for that.
I feel like 6 doesn't get played on TV very much, and 4 doesn't, but 5 is always on. I feel like I've seen 5 a ton on TV.
Yeah, 4 and 5 are on a lot. 6 isn't played as much, and when it is, it's usually the theatrical version.
I've definitely seen 5 the most out of these 3.
Yeah. And I mean, 5 has some awesome kills too. I mean, there's one dude with the
rake in the face.
Yeah.
Is iconic in the garage.
Yeah, with that dick of a boyfriend. But yeah, I think if you're going to continue the Halloween franchise post part 2. You have to go the route they did with 4. 5 is kind of I felt like, kind of like where 6 left off. It left potential for very interesting direction if they did that correctly. 4 and
they
5
leave all these openings that they don't take advantage of.
Yeah.
And then retcon everything, which is it's very frustrating.
And would they have kept Michael as an actual slasher had they continued down that path?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, what kind of view are we going to get of Michael if Loomis is now the new leader of the cult? He's almost the protector of Myers and stuff. I mean, that's a whole thing I wish we could find out. But yeah, so this came out in 95, and then in 98 we have, which is starting our third.
This is the third timeline.
This is the third timeline. This one is one that picks up. It's a direct sequel to part 2. It has Jamie Lee Curtis. It's Halloween H20, 20 years later, which was released 20 years after the first Halloween film. Starred LL Cool J in the film, and Josh Hartnett's film debut as well. And this one, I always have a love-hate relationship with this film. Not only
it's got a good premise.
It's
if
a good
you're going to
premise.
Restart the timeline.
Laurie faked her death, basically. She faked her death to get away from Haddonfield and stuff. And there's no reference to Jamie Lloyd. Jamie Lloyd doesn't exist. This doesn't exist in this timeline, even though in the original script there's supposed to be some type of mention of her, which would have been kind of cool because that would have made in this timeline 4 through 6 canon, but it wasn't. So, and I don't remember how, like, what Michael's been doing these 20 years. Like, yeah, I wasn't seeing 20 years since the explosion. Loomis died. And so I'm sorry, I can't remember how.
I don't remember if they
Michael
actually
found
even
how. This film also has
LL Cool J,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it as well. Loomis's nurse, Marion Chambers, found the. Okay, that's what it was.
He
found
hunts
the
him down.
Strode. Yeah, she murders her and Jimmy, who's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And then in this film, Laurie Strode is a head mistress of an academy and the private boarding school, and has her son, which is Josh Hartnett, and LL Cool J is the security guard on the premises. Josh Hartnett has his friends who are the kill count in this film, basically. Laurie is starting to date this new guy. I believe he's a teacher. I can't remember. But she basically tells him that she's that Laurie Strode, because she's going under a different name in this film. I forgot what it was, but she tells her that she's Laurie Strode, and basically Myers comes to the academy, kills kids, and has a kind of a one-on-one with Laurie in this one. And, to me, one of the biggest problems of this film is, I don't know what the hell happened in pre-production, but there's so many different variations of the mask that you see in this film. There's like 5 or 6 different ones. It's pretty ridiculous.
Like, they reuse so many shots. It's just,
But like, and so, I mean, basically there's, I've seen this film not a whole lot lately, in the past few years, but what I always loved about this film was the ending, the fact that they have him in a body, or maybe not in a body. Yeah, I think it was in a body.
No.
Right? They put him in the ambulance or something, and she basically
to the coroner's van.
takes an axe and gets in and drives off because she knows he's not dead.
Yep.
And he wakes up and tries to attack her. They end up fighting while driving, and
it had some mad shades of the end of Halloween 3, which I did appreciate. A little bit.
Yeah,
of
that's true. Yeah,
you know, it's a car scene at the end.
They Michael's pinned to the tree. He kind of like is reaching out to her, and yeah, she decapitates. Like the last shot is her swinging the
head
axe,
off.
And
so you would think he's dead, right?
Well,
that's how most people are dead.
The power of money, and
I know, but this
had a budget of $17 million. It made $75 million.
But I mean, like, definitively, this is the first time we see him actually pretty brutally, like, all of his other deaths are off screen. He's like definitively decapitated, which is very hard to explain, right?
Right.
Yeah, you can't really come back from having your head separated from your body.
At least you can say for the others that it was plausible he could have escaped the explosions and, been in comas and all that crap. But,
you're right. Yeah. Well, there's definitely more. So in 2002, we have the last film in this particular stretch of storyline, which is Halloween Resurrection, which is one of the worst sequels in the Halloween.
But it has one of the best semblances of a celebrity cast.
Maybe
it's got Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks in it.
Yeah,
and Jamie Lee Curtis.
So basically, we find out that Myers kind of did part 6 here and swapped clothes with a paramedic. The paramedic is the one he crushed the paramedic's throat so he couldn't talk. Put him in the Myers stuff. And it was the paramedic that Laurie killed, and she's sent off to a sanitarium.
And she's just as crazy as Michael at this point.
Yeah, and basically Myers kills 2 guards. They have a chase to the rooftop. He's hanging off basically. And I think she landed on his knife. She's impaled. She kisses his mask, says, "I'll see you in hell," and drops down. Laurie's dead. Then what? Well, a year later, we get introduced to these random ass kids from Haddonfield, which we don't have any connection to. So
yeah, those randos.
There's this web series called Dangertainment, and where they go to these haunted houses or killers' houses, and they do like an all night stream thing there. So they decided to do the Myers house. I guess after Michael killed Laurie, he's just like, I'm gonna go back home, deuces, and he goes there and hangs out for a while, for I don't know, a year, I don't know. So basically, they're rigging this house up for this Halloween night live stream of the Myers house. These kids sign up, and we have Freddie. It's Freddie Harris and Nora Winston, which is Tyra Banks and Busta Rhymes, and they've kind of
such a shit show.
They kind of like doctored up the house to make it more scary, but Michael's actually killing people. I think Busta Rhymes has a Myers costume to try to scare them.
He's like, it's funny because there's like a fake Michael Myers and there's the real Michael Myers, and they think they're both entries in the costume contest, and the real one's killing people at the party, and it takes basically half the people dying to realize that it's not a game anymore.
And then
it's a funny premise.
They get killed.
It's real Scooby-Doo shit though.
Yeah, they get killed. Busta Rhymes has one cringy line where he's like, "Trick or treat, motherfucker." And yeah, and he somehow like karate kicks Michael, I don't know, into a fire, and
It is such a mess.
Michael's on, so he's burnt. Michael gets taken to the hospital or to the morgue. as the coroner's preparing to examine Michael, you see through his mask his eye kind of shut, and then you see it open up, and that's it.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Yeah.
It's interesting
Surprise,
that
motherfucker.
in the first timeline, he's completely dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the next two timelines where they stop both of them, but he ends up alive.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have to go to the fourth one. We're not quite there yet, but
Mm-hmm.
they're like, they leave you with like, oh, what could happen? You're never going to find out.
Which I must say, compared
really,
to...
none of them are settled except for the first two movies. Like, that's the only timeline that has an ending, and you can at least live with it. It's like the other ones end on cliffhangers and they restart again.
And I must say, the cliffhanger, I guess, if we're discounting part 6, I'm way more interested in to see what came from the sequel to
100%.
Resurrection. Yeah,
but that's too cerebral for a slasher audience. They don't want to see that. They want to see Michael Myers chop people up.
Well, yeah, and then we didn't get a horror film, a Halloween film until the Rob Zombie remakes, which came out in 2007.
It's 2007. God, do you
09,
remember the hype for that? I mean, so that's like starting to get into like when we were actually paying attention to stuff.
I remember, dude.
Older. It was like the hype for that was unreal, and we're like, whatever, man. Have you watched the original Halloween?
I will say, I really love the casting of Malcolm McDowell as Loomis. I thought he did a really good job, even though the scripts were horrible.
They were,
and those were the first Halloween films post Mustafa Akkad death. As then Malik took over. But yeah, so Zombies Halloween 2 came out in 2009. They didn't have a film for 9 years. 2018 we got, this goes into our last final storyline, choose your own adventure thing, and this one is different because so far every one of them has jumped off of part two. This one, the Halloween that came out in 2018, ignores Halloween 2 and it jumps off from the original Halloween. So it's almost like it's Halloween 2 again. But yeah, and this one yet again has Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. She's Michael's been in an institution at Smith Grove for 40 years. There's basically these guys are on a podcast. Somehow, for some reason, Smith Grove allowed some podcast people to come in and try to talk to Michael or talk to the doctors because they're doing a episode on his murder spree in the 70s. Jamie Lloyd is gone full on hermit, full on paranoia. She has a daughter and a granddaughter, Karen and Allison. She has a drinking problem. She has a fortified house.
She has hella PTSD going on.
A little bit, just a splash.
Yeah.
I'm really curious how she was able to get married twice. Not just date somebody, but get engaged and get married to the point of getting divorced with all of this shit that she has going on that's unresolved.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if she can do it, we all can do it.
Well, she couldn't keep them, so I'm just like, what did you do to get to that point that they ended up? Because, I mean, you got pretty far.
Yeah. Yeah, so Michael escapes.
Surprise.
He escapes. And, obviously we have Laurie Strode's granddaughter, and her relationship with her daughter is fractured based on how she trained her daughter to, basically survival tactics. When she was growing up, didn't allow her to have a childhood and stuff. And so Michael escapes. We have a new doctor. It's Michael's new psychiatrist. His name is Sarton, Dr. Sarton, and basically pulls a Loomis, comes to Haddonfield, talks to the new sheriff. They're hunting him down. And Laurie basically finds out that Michael's there, and he kills friends
like,
of
you.
Allison. Yeah, and then we have Dr. Sarton. Basically, once they find Michael, the sheriff, he allows the sheriff to get killed by Michael because he wants to see Michael in the wild. He wants to study Michael in this capacity and stuff. So he's kind of psycho himself.
This is why we can't trust doctors.
But then, like right after that, after we find out we get this evil doctor, Michael kills him too. They go to Laurie's fortified house, which has crazy lights and stuff, and yeah. Long story short, Michael, it's kind of a like reverse trap, like fortified house, because somehow she decided to. Well, I want to get Michael into my basement, and that's where the real trap is.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has these like trip wires to burn her house with Michael in the basement. And that's the last film that we have that's released. We're supposed to get Halloween Kills this October that we're currently in, but unfortunately, COVID, they bumped. Just after this film was released, it was announced that Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends would be released. This kind of marks the Blumhouse trilogy of Halloween films, which has Carpenter on board producing as a consultant, and he's doing the music for it as well. His first involvement in the series since Halloween 3. So Halloween Kills comes out in 2021 and Ends comes out in 2022. I do know at Halloween Kills we have Kyle Richards. She is coming back to play her role as Lindsay Gordon, who in the original film was the girl that was being babysat that was brought over to be with Tommy. And then we have Anthony Michael Hall playing an adult Tommy Doyle, which really hurts my heart because they reached out to Paul Rudd to see if he wanted to play Tommy Doyle again. He couldn't due to scheduling from like
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters and like probably Ant-Man and stuff. But I was like, oh man, that would have been great. This film, I saw it in the theaters. We're talking about the 2018 Halloween film, and I really, really liked it when I first saw it. And I watched it again when it came out on like digital, and it was not as good. Obviously, there were some great shots and great moments. Obviously, they had one long ongoing shot of him that was kind of a direct callback to Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2. And then there's even a scene with the three masks from Halloween 3. These three kids run up and you see them, and that's kind of a cool nod. Lots of cool nods. I just don't like the fact that it's Laurie Strode again, a different Laurie Strode. And it's, instead of 20 years later, it's 40 years later. It's a different Laurie, and I don't know. I really didn't like the Dr. Sarton, whatever his name is. I didn't like his angle either. So I'm curious to where they go from here. That would be interesting.
I mean, there obviously is some kind of finality written into it with the final trilogy,
right? And that's
Halloween Ends. So maybe, and John Carpenter's on board. So maybe we finally get some kind of ending to the Michael Myers story that at least makes some sense in this timeline.
Mm-hmm. Or like let's do some type of because at the end of this film we have Karen and Allison and Laura. They're in this truck, and we see Allison clenching the knife like super tight. So again, I got like a connection to like Halloween 4 with Jamie. Maybe she's kind of messed up from all this stuff too. So I mean, I'm curious to see what they're going to do with Halloween Kills,
They've got options.
and Ends. Yeah,
It's got all the creative team you need to make this work.
Right.
That's what upset me the most about this. You got Blumhouse, you got Carpenter, you got Jamie Lee Curtis.
It felt a little.
If Donald Pleasance was alive, they'd probably have him in it. It has all the cast back that you could have back. Nick Castle.
Yeah.
What else do you want?
Nick Castle was in it. Yeah.
There was on paper. There should be no problem. John Carpenter's doing the score.
Yeah. It felt, it felt
a little too much callback.
It felt a little safe. It felt like they were just kind of.
They knew what was going to work. They knew what we expected of it.
Close to their cards and stuff. Not trying to do anything too crazy.
So maybe this will be the episode 7 Star Wars. Maybe they'll do some crazy shit for the last two and shake it up.
Yeah, I've heard from people that work on the film that, not personally, just publicly, they've said that Halloween Kills compared to the first one is like 100 times about more violent.
I'm excited to see it framed in the context of the other two because, like I said, they have to have a plan. Surely, honest to God, that group of people has a better vision. And they're going to have the money to do all 3 of these movies. They know they're going to get to do all 3 of them, regardless of how they perform.
Right.
And it's going to happen.
If you think
I think they were just playing it safe to try and draw people back in. And since they're redoing the sequel, which was done in 80, whatever that year was.
81.
That's obviously 40 years ago. So okay, we have to get the old audience to come back and a new audience.
Yeah. And
then really show what he's capable of, what we've really got up our sleeves.
And let's be fair to him. There hasn't been a new, Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th movie since Freddy vs. Jason.
Since the remakes,
The remakes, but those didn't do so hot either. So they really have all the attention because they're the one of the 3 major, and I guess Texas Chainsaw Massacre doesn't happen with that forever either. It's this is the only show in town for the old school 80s slashers being featured.
Because right now the Friday franchise is tied up in legal conundrums.
The legal mess
and then
and everything else.
The Elm Street franchise, actually, that went back to Craven's estate.
Mm-hmm. And so they haven't designated.
Last I heard, they were feeling out screenwriters and directors and stuff, so something's going to happen there probably quicker than Friday.
Yeah, the Friday the 13th is a mess right now.
But also, if you think about it, though, this trilogy of Blumhouse films, it will be probably the first set of Halloween films that are written as a whole story, as a trilogy almost.
That's what I'm saying. It's I think they have a plan, so it's going to be bookended. That I'm hoping that's what's happening. Because I think that's what the first 2 were kind of, even though Carpenter didn't direct it, but they were, at least written with that idea of, if he comes back, here's plan B, right?
Yeah, but
they've all been one-off entries.
Yeah, I think when we did Halloween, I don't think he had any intention on doing,
and
that's Carpenter's MO. A lot of his films, they end on kind of what's going to happen type thing. The Thing did, The Fog did. All that, and obviously when they offered him money, obviously he's going to make a sequel. So, but I definitely am curious to see, given this property, what are they going to do when they have a guaranteed 2-3 films to complete a story? What are you going to leave? What point are you going to leave off into? What storyline threads are you going to pick up from the first one and make bigger, or introduce in the second one? How this is going to resolve in the third one? So I'm definitely interested in seeing how all of that plays out.
For sure. But it's going to have vision, which I'm excited. Maybe we'll get a proper, well-treated set of films, not just the one-off, whole new team, every single movie.
Right.
It's just they haven't done it justice. The whole thing's been botched.
No, it's been rough. But
they're lucky they have fans, period, left, honestly.
Yeah, it's a cluster, which is why we broke it all down for you nice and neatly tonight. This friend, I've always wanted to do something about this series because it is so you can pick your own path. Are you feeling more 80s horror? Go with 4 through 6. If you're feeling a 90s 2000s horror, you go with H20 and Resurrection, I guess.
I mean, they were like trying to make it like
I didn't
Scream.
sign up to go with the first 2 movies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or
yeah.
you can do 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, and I won't cut your balls off. But for me, those are the only ones that I'm interested in. I really don't care. I mean, I want to watch the new trilogy.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Rob Zombie ones, I just don't even acknowledge because I mean, it's just like what the hell. That whole thing existed, and we're not even doing that timeline. But the only good thing from the Rob Zombie films is Weird Al has a cameo in the second Halloween 2. That's the only good thing. But other than that,
well, we also had Jamie. We had Danielle Harris, who played Jamie in 4 and 5. She was playing one of Laurie's friends in both of Zombies films. So that was kind of cool.
Bizarro,
but
though. Just
if you're a Rob Zombie fan,
then watch him. But why did Rob Zombie have to do a Halloween movie? He's got his own IPs.
Yeah, which he's
making those into the ground.
He's burning those into the ground too. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you couldn't have used like Sid Haig when he was in better health and done some more work with that crew instead of pulling him out on a gurney for the last one. I mean, it just sucks. The timing
has one good day of filming, and then you have to change your script on the fly because his character's not in it. That's not cool. But it happens.
Sucks. So you stay the hell away from my IPs.
That's the hot take. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in, and again, join us next week for our Halloween special giveaways and heated candy corn debate will ensue along with other.
Listen, there's not a debate. I'm going to win, and you just need to go ahead and prepare to concede.
It's fact. Candy corn.
I want you to be on the right side of history here. I'm giving you all these chances to be on the right side of history. Make the right choice.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see how that plays out next week.
Well, here's your hot take: is I don't hate candy corn, but I don't want to eat bags and bags of candy corn. It's a disgusting candy.
I get one bag.
It's a disgusting candy. It's like one piece is enough. Okay, it's too much.
It's one piece a year to remind myself. Oh yeah, I still don't like this because it's disgusting.
Is it gelatin? Is it bullshit? I don't know what it is.
I don't understand what the flavor is. Why is
Tune
it
in, kids. It's going to be a blast. Put the DBZ music on this. Who will decide the future of candy corn? Tune in next time on Scream Stream.
Dun, 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 dun.
I'm going to go Super Saiyan 4.